And good morning, South Africa and everybody on the African continent. Welcome to Morning Express, and the name is Mbele. You're watching us live on Galaxy Universal Network in Johannesburg and our headquarters in Midrand. And let us take a look at our leading headlines this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa congratulates SADTU for reaching a milestone. And EFF accuses SAPS and national government for being cowardice after protesters burn SAPS truck and storms holding cells. And the Hawks dismiss reports on impending MASHAELA arrest. And today in studio we'll be joined by MASHAELA, talking all things about education, her being overseas, and what is it teaching in the countries like China, Shanghai, the different capital cities that have that side. And we'll get into that conversation since it was World Teachers Day just a couple of days ago. And we get to really find the dynamics around education. How do they do it that side? Is it different from South Africa, and the kind of education that she received here in SA? But as we continue with our stories this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa has congratulated the South African Democratic Teachers Union for reaching yet another milestone. Delivering a keynote address on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of SADTU, Ramaphosa said that for over 30 years, the union has been mobilizing, organizing, and leading the educators of South Africa in their struggles of a better condition of employment. And he further went on and said to congratulate
and nurturing them
as
to be the future builders of our country. Government is committed to the safety of all our educators and learners, as well as of all the support staff in our school environment. We will continue to do everything in our power and within our means to ensure that your safety is not undermined. We will continue to provide our teachers with personal protective equipment and all other support that they need to teach successfully and safely. At the same time, I urge you to continue to be vigilant. We must keep ourselves and others safe by continuing to observe the regulations around social distancing and good hygiene protocols at all times. We are acutely aware of the many other challenges that make it difficult for our teachers, educators to do their work. We are working tirelessly to resolve problems in our schools with regard to infrastructure, namely on issues such as sanitation, water, electricity, proper and safe classrooms, as well as access to adequate learning materials. We must work together to rid our schools of violence that threatens the safety not only of learners, but also of our educators, because many of them have been subjected to violence, and learners have also been subjected to violence. And we must work together to eradicate violence in our schools.
And he further on went to congratulate them on reaching this point because, as he understood too well, that the difficulties of organizing and leading people from such vastly different backgrounds and worldviews is very difficult. And the president went on to also pay tributes to all the teachers who have worked throughout under these difficult circumstances, thanking them for their dedication and success of the country's children and the future of our country that has been proven time and again, but so more during the times of COVID-19.
The fight against corruption, wherever it rears its head, and let us report and expose corruption wherever we see it. There is a continued pressure that we all face from our people about eradicating corruption, and we must respond to what our people are saying in relation to eradicating corruption. Let me.
And still continuing with our stories, our next story is that the economic freedom fighter have slammed what they label as a pathetic and cowardice of the South African police service after they were confronted with violence and aggression by white people in what the party also described as a blatant sign of disrespect of white puppet regime and its authority. In a statement released on Tuesday, the EFF continued to take a swipe at the governing party, the ANC, as an organization that suffers from a low self-esteem and fearing of whiteness as the individuals and committed these violence acts, knowing very well that no force would be shown against them because of the color of their skin.
Yeah,
And it continued to say that the EFF also pointed that the stark contrast of the country has whiteness countless times in incidents against the use of force against black people who protest peacefully, making examples of infamous hashtag Fees Must Fall protests and Marikana massacre. And still on the same story of the EFF, the raid brigades also accused the country's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, whom they have labeled as a pet of white monopoly capital, as having to put the country at the mercy of his masters. Meanwhile, Police Minister Mbele condemned the actions of the protesters outside the cynical magistrates' court. This after the protesters torched a police van and stormed police holding cells for the two suspects accused in the murder of the family of Braden Horner, who was brutally and senselessly murdered on a farm near Port Leroux last Friday. Anti-Forum Ernest Roberts also spoke out on the matter, and this is what he had to say.
All right, I'm talking here to Aaron's Roots, the head of policy and action at AfriForum. Aaron's, just your quick thoughts on AfriForum's stance on today's happenings, today's events, and the path going forward.
Well, there were many people here today who came from various parts of the country, Pretoria, Bloemfontein, Cape Town even, and many other parts. And the people on the one hand expressed their solidarity with the family and with the community, and they expressed their concern and their sorrow. But there was also a message of anger and frustration with what is happening in this country. Anger about the reality of farm murders, but on top of that, anger about the fact that the South African government is not responding to the problem. What we find instead is the state president goes on an international platform and denies the existence of the problem. And we find the Minister of Police going on a public platform and stating that this is not something that the government should regard as a priority. And that's why people are so angry about what is happening. And it's important for this, it's important for us to send this message out about the extent of the problem and also the no-care attitude of the South African government on the one side, but on the other hand, even more important, it's important for us to recognize that the solution lies within ourselves. we need to be more organized. We need to start community safety structures or become involved where such structures exist already. We need to be more vigilant and more organized as a community to protect ourselves as a community, not as mere atomistic individuals who are unconnected to each other.
And we continue to the next story. The Hawks have distanced themselves from a report from the IOL report regarding the so-called impending arrest of African National Congress Secretary General Ace Magashule. In a brief statement released on Wednesday morning, the Hawks Brigadier Hungani Mraudzi said that the DPCI viewed the report as a malicious intent to undermine the integrity of the organization. According to the IOL report, Magashule had rebutted talks that news of his intended arrest was fake news. IOL had claimed that Magashule also had gone on record to confirm the independent media that he had been aware of his name and it had appeared on the list of those supposedly earmarked on the arrest by the National Prosecuting Authority. The ANC Secretary General was also quoted as saying that he was aware that it was said to be Hollywood Equest type of arrest. According to IOL, it also understood that it was going to be arrested and charged over his role and in the capacity as former Free State's premier in the ever-continuous dairy farm project of his failure to exercise proper oversight relating to investigations over the Freda dairy farm probe. And our next story is Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula revealed that transport authorities, PRASA, has ensured over 3,000 workers to protect the agency infrastructure against what is labeled as unprecedented levels of vandalism. According to the Minister of Transport, he has included in ensuring of the 1,100 PRASA security personnel who will form part of its security plan with a multidisciplinary involving justice as well as safety and security clear departments within its organization.
And vandalism does not start yesterday. It was simply amplified and accelerated during the period of COVID-19 and the shutdown in our country. But criminals have been in charge here in PRASA. They've been running a show and then they've been aided by some of the employees inside. Been an inside job. So it will be incorrect to think that criminals and syndicates who are vandalizing this property have been acting on their own. And that is why PRASA has taken a decision which we support to in-source security. There are many positives with regard to that. Of course, the unions will gain new members. But the fact of the matter is that we've got people now who are directly accountable to our watch. You can see him, right? It is PRASA security, permanent security. Now, where I want security to be, don't even compare with what we have seen. It's neither close to what I've mandated them to do. I want a totally new arrangement where in which security with your donkey peel and everything and so on, push back people, you can see the crowds. Those who don't have tickets will not enter the train. From where we are, people just enter the train. They simply showed us their tickets. You know, they operate like e-talks. They said that, no, I bought the ticket. But nobody was checking the tickets in the morning. And that is not what we want. The arrangement I want, and which is the mandate of...
And still continuing with our stories, interim leader of Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen, says that the uncaring and incompetent government should be blamed for the Nelson Mandela Bay's water crisis. According to Steenhuisen, the NMB's tap have been running dry in many areas due to the delays and failures to maintain and upgrade infrastructure as a result of a failure of leadership. The DA and MP further said that the water interruptions are now a daily occurrence in the northern and western areas of the Nelson Mandela Bay area, where taps began running dry a month ago.
Today I'm Nelson Mandela Bay with our Eastern Cape Provincial leader Ngaba Banga and our local councillor Zinto, and we are at the site of what is a massive water leak. As you can see behind us, hundreds of megalitres of water being pumped out every single day, while the taps in Nelson Mandela Bay are running dry. Businesses are forcing to close because they don't have a reliable water supply, and importantly, jobs are being lost because this municipality cannot get the most basics of service delivery right. 46% of all water in Nelson Mandela Bay is lost due to theft or to leaks like this one behind us. It is outrageous that people are going without water while these thousands of megalitres are pumping out here every single day. President Ramaphosa has spoken about an economic recovery plan. He's had a lot to say about it in the last few weeks. Well, I hate to tell him that an economic recovery plan is absolutely impossible if you don't get the basics of government right. Providing a sustainable water and electricity framework that is maintained properly and which provides an efficient, effective, cost-effective service to people. It's any economic recovery plan built on anything other than a solid foundation is going to crumble. Let's get the basics right before we start trying to fix the big stuff. Ngaba, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
No, thank you, John, for coming. We need your intervention to talk to the President and the Minister about a water engineer. What we need is somebody who specializes in water management to come and give guidance. There's no leadership because this municipality is incompetent. We have not reached a day zero, we have reached day incompetent.
Zinto, do you want to add anything? You've been dealing with this matter for many years.
Yes, from our side, John, we will continue fighting. Thank you for coming over and assisting us from the national and some provincial level. Thank you so much, John.
My message to the people of Nelson Mandela Bay is this. We can fix this. We can get the basics right. We can get the Bay back on track. But it's going to require your vote to get out there and help get us a majority in the next local government elections. Your vote is intrinsically linked to the way you live. Make sure that you vote for a strong party to take control in the Bay and get the city back on track. That party is the DA under Ngaba Banga. We have a plan to fix the city, we've got a plan to fix the province, and we've got a plan to fix South Africa. It's up to you now to help us by voting for the DA and Nelson Mandela Bay in big numbers. We are this close to winning an outright majority here. Your help can help us get across the finish line. Thank you.
Well, that was the first edition of the news that we brought right here on the Morning Express show. And after this quick commercial break, I'll bring to you a lady from South Africa that went and spread her wings to the world. And she's an educator, a teacher, and also one of the people that are taking our South African flag very high in Shanghai, all the way, I don't know if it's China or is it Hong Kong. It's part of that world. But see you guys after this as we conversate with an educator abroad.
Make massive moves.
So from the theatre stage to the kitchen.
I'm anxiously awaiting to see Sanaya.
What else is this if not love?
Make massive moves with Starsat.
Good morning. Well, good morning, South Africa. Welcome back from the ad break. It's fun things right here today because I was being taught a few things that I could say in Shanghai once I get there, but I really murdered the language. But as we continue with our guest today, joined by LEENDOW, who's from the other side of the country. Good morning, LEENDOW. How do you do?
Hi, good morning. I'm good, thanks. And how are you?
I'm fantastic. Well, take us through you being a South African and you being a teacher in Shanghai.
Well, let me see. It's very different. As I was saying, it's very different, and it's fruitful as well, because what I like about students back there is that they're very intrinsically motivated from like a young age. So discipline, number one, discipline is not a problem in China. And also I've actually just learned a lot, like in terms of culture, language. It's quite different, but also it's made me appreciate some of our educational system and beliefs as well.
Well, take me through that. I mean, once you treasure it here in South Africa, it's not the same things that happen in that part of the world. So what are the differences when you're looking at it in terms of what we've always thought Shanghai to be, or Hong Kong, China, in terms of the fourth industrial revolution? Take me through the different dynamics of education that side.
Well, number one, I think we all assume that in China, you have this wonderful technology in classrooms, and learners don't have to do much. But actually, I found that they also, in terms of resources and technology, they also just as us. So they also a bit behind, just like us, in terms of technology. But what I admire about them is that they work so hard in terms of, classroom management and things like that. I've never struggled. I've never had to struggle. And you think that because of the language barrier, that's when I'd have to like struggle the most and whatever. But actually, no, the support and the motivation from the students is amazing. So when I got there, and also teaching as a profession, it's looked highly upon in China. Like teachers are like the pillars of the community. Everyone just looks upon you, and they really respect you. So you were asking me if we party that side. Unfortunately, as a teacher, I have to really be careful as to how I portray myself in the society, because teachers are really just looked highly upon, and how you conduct yourself is very important. So I think, South Africa and other countries as well can learn to appreciate the teachers, like China, because Chinese parents, they believe and they tell their students that the teacher's always right. The teacher's always right. So it's actually lovely to get that kind of support, especially from parents, whereby this side, sometimes the parents support the students more. And that makes, your job a little bit more difficult. But then that side, the support that I get from the parents, the school, the students as well, from like a very young age, is very amazing.
And I think you are speaking broadly on, I think, how education is such a beautiful thing, how dynamic it is. And supposedly, one would say that the salary compared to South Africa of teachers would be a very vast difference in terms of the money that teachers get paid. And we have the SATU, this side in South Africa, in our country, always complaining about the wages that teachers are getting, the benefits they have, and them not being taken seriously as a career, as a force within South Africa. Would you say those differences are something that you've looked at and really come to understand that it's actually true?
Yes. Actually, I think most people who go and teach that side, I think wages are also they are the biggest parts of us leaving and going to seek for better opportunities. More than just being taken seriously, because at the end of the day, we do so much and you want to be appreciated, for what you do. And even your wages as well, they need to, reflect the kind of work that you do. So the fact that teachers are not getting, paid as much as they deserve this side, I think we need to work on that as well. Because back there, the wages are significantly higher, they're much better. And I think also, but we need to look at the economy as a whole. South Africa, unfortunately, we don't have that much money. But then I think a lot, they are able to actually boost our salaries. But then, I don't know, we'll see. Our economy needs to actually work for us first.
Interesting. I think, take me through the process when you told your parents that you are an educator, you're going to Shanghai. What was their perception, or were they opening to the idea of you leaving South Africa, going to teach in another country?
No. I remember it was the day of my graduation when I got the news. Just when I left the grade hall. I just would open my phone to check messages, and then I'm like, oh, by the way, guys, I think I just got a job in China. They're like, China? Who goes to China? I don't know, man. And then my aunt is like, but you're just a baby. How are you going, to a whole new world all alone? No, you need to take someone with you, take a friend or something. And I was like, no, I'm doing this. And yeah, it was difficult for them to let go. I mean, I think it's difficult for every parent to do that. But yeah, after I arrived and they saw that I haven't been trafficked, I think that was the number one concern. Human trafficking.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah,
but I think
so
you mentioned earlier on, so sorry to interject today, but you mentioned earlier on the difference of our fourth industrial revolution, that side we are not as far behind, but are there any differences that you'd actually realize and spot that probably in China they are more ahead than South Africa in terms of our education system?
Let me see. Well, in terms of our education system, I think the fact that they have, for me, the biggest difference is the curriculum. In China, they have a curriculum that is suitable and is used by everyone from a young age. So there's not that gap that we have, from private schools to public schools. There's that big gap from when we begin grade 1. The private school students, they obviously are going to have better chances and they're going to, get better resources, a better education. But in China, from grade 1, I think, up to grade 7, primary school is the same for everyone. So I think if we can, implement that in South Africa, I think it would close this gap, this very huge gap that we seem to have. Because private school kids are always, even now with COVID-19, the private school kids were getting video lessons. They had better resources. They went back to school earlier. And then with the public schools, they always, they're getting the last slice of the bread. So I think in terms of that, that's what we need to really work on, just getting the curriculum to not cause such a great gap between us.
Oh, interesting. An interesting, I think, a take on it in terms of our education system. But last 30 seconds, what would you say to people aspiring to go out and chase their dreams and they find it so hard, more especially in the pandemic that we're facing and knowing that you're actually back in South Africa? What do you say to them? How should they pick themselves up and continue living their lives?
Just never give up. I know it's so cliche, but just never give up. I think that's like the most important thing, because it's so easy to give up, than to keep going. So I think the most important thing, just never give up. I know it's a very cliche thing, and it's hard to not give up when you don't see hope and you don't see, but just don't. Why start if you're going to give up either way?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining me, LEENDOW, right here on the Morning Express.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Well, South Africa and the people on the continent of Africa, you heard it yourself here. Inequality is something that we continuously face as the world. It's not only in our different parts of the nations, our continents, where we're in Africa, and we think that inequality is something we only understand within our different vast education platforms. We should always strive to improve, to uplift and build ourselves up as we continue to build a continent that is upgrading, that is powerful. And so just like that, on that note, from myself and the team right here on the Morning Express, it's goodbye, God bless. See you guys at 12 p.m. on the Midday Express, where I'll be talking with Rosang and Hatswane on the show. But hey, from here, it's goodbye. Have a good one.